The library drifted in silence around a dying star. Once golden, the star now glowed a faint red, its light bleeding across the black metal walls of the Grand Archive of Ilia. The structure had no windows, no doors, only endless corridors of whispering data crystals that stored the history of 10,000 worlds. Inside, a lone figure moved quietly between towering shelves. His name was Rethan, a young scholar of the Archive Guild. His skin shimmered like glass under the dim light, and his four-fingered hands trembled as he clutched his scanner. He wasn't supposed to be here. He should have been cataloging trade treaties or planetary migration records like every other student. But tonight, curiosity, that dangerous human-like trait his mentors warned him about, had taken hold. He was searching for a myth. Every archivist heard rumors about a book that none dared read, a file that even the High Council had sealed away. They called it the Galactic Bestiary. It was said to hold the complete record of every intelligent species the galaxy had ever known, from the peaceful Verin to the monstrous Kyle. But somewhere inside that great compendium was a chapter spoken of only in whispers, the chapter on humans. No one had seen one in living memory. The last record of their existence dated back over 3,000 cycles. Their homeworld, Earth, had been quarantined, the system sealed under decree. The reason was simple, or maybe not so simple. Every expedition that tried to enter that system never came back. Rethan didn't believe the ghost stories until tonight. He turned down a corridor rarely walked by anyone, Sector 9, where the oldest and most dangerous archives were stored. The air here was cold, almost metallic, as if the data itself exhaled dread. He approached a floating terminal at the end of the passage. Its surface pulsed with faint symbols, the mark of restricted access. There it was. A dark crystal sphere hovered above a circular pedestal. Its name glowed in pale blue glyphs, the Galactic Bestiary. Rethan's heart, if the rhythmic organ beneath his chest could be called that, pulsed faster. He reached out. The crystal flickered alive, projecting thousands of names and species in holographic light. He scrolled through them, pages of history cascading before him, until he found it. At the very end, highlighted in red, Homo sapiens, Ert. He frowned. The entry was sealed with 3 psychic locks and an override from the Council of 10,000 Worlds. That was unusual. Only ancient war files or catastrophic contagions had that level of security. He hesitated. His mentor's words echoed in his mind. Never access what the Council forbids. Knowledge has weight. Some truths can crush the mind that holds them. But the question burned in him. What made humanity so dangerous that even knowledge of them was forbidden? He activated the terminal. A deep mechanical voice filled the air. The library's Central Intelligence Archivist Prime. Access denied. Dangerous content. Viewing restricted by order of the Council of 10,000 Worlds. Rethan's voice trembled. Override. Scholar code Rethan Delta 7. Research purpose educational. Override invalid. Species record classified. Warning. Unauthorized access will trigger containment protocols. Containment protocols. That meant memory erasure, maybe even neural disintegration. Still, curiosity was stronger. He pressed his palm against the scanner. His own neural pattern pulsed into the system. The lock resisted, then cracked. The air vibrated. The crystal flickered red, then white. He had broken the seal. At once, a blinding wave of images burst from the archive, slamming into his mind. He gasped. He saw a blue world, oceans shining, continents scarred by time. He saw humans, strange, soft, fragile creatures, building fire in the dark, shouting at the sky, taming beasts twice their size. He saw cities rising from dust, then burning under the same hands that built them. War, peace, war again, flashes of thunder, metal birds crossing the heavens, and finally, the sky split by light, nuclear fire consuming continents. Rethan fell to his knees, clutching his head. He tried to shut the images out, but they kept coming. Laughter, music, a child's cry, a soldier's scream, a rocket breaking the atmosphere, a flag planted on barren soil. Then, silence. The projection stabilized. Before him floated a single page of the record. The title glowed faintly. Page 1, Humanity. Classification, Apex Anomaly. He scrolled down. The first line made his blood run cold. Humanity is not to be provoked. He blinked, stunned. That phrase repeated again and again. Every page began the same way. 49 pages in total. No other species had more than 3. The words seemed to hum in the air, vibrating through the floor, as if the library itself remembered the terror. He looked around nervously. The air temperature had dropped. The crystals flickered. For the first time, he felt like something inside the archive was watching him back. He reached to close the file, but then the lights dimmed completely. From the terminal came a faint pulse, rhythmic, deliberate, like a heartbeat. Then a whisper. A voice, mechanical yet human, spoke through the speakers. "File accessed. Observation resumes." Rethan froze. Who said that?" No answer. The voice wasn't coming from the library systems. It was coming from outside. Far away in the dark between stars, something ancient had heard him. Across the void, sensors dormant for centuries blinked alive, satellites long forgotten reoriented toward the galactic core. An ancient network began to hum, signals leaping from relay to relay, carrying a message older than most civilizations now standing. On the control panel, Rathan watched in horror as the screen filled with human text, symbols no one had used in millennia. The translation shimmered slowly into his language. Observation Unit 9 reactivated. "Access detected. Source Ilyar Archive. Begin monitoring." Rethan staggered back. "No, this can't be real." The crystal sphere brightened again, almost painfully. For a heartbeat, he thought he saw a reflection. Not his own, but a pair of human eyes staring at him through the projection. He slammed the console shut. The light vanished. The library returned to silence, almost. Beneath that silence, deep in the archive circuitry, the faint hum of alien code mixed with something else, something unmistakably Terran. Rethan stumbled back toward the corridor, his breath shaky. The glowing halls now seemed darker, tighter, as if the entire building was holding its breath. He didn't know it yet, but his single act of curiosity had awakened something the galaxy had worked millennia to forget. And far across the cold stars, a signal whispered back, "We see you." Rethan didn't sleep that cycle. He sat in his small chamber within the archive complex, hands trembling over his datapad. His reflection stared back at him, pale eyes wide, skin flickering faintly from fear. The memory of the voice still echoed in his mind. "File accessed. Observation resumes." It hadn't been a system warning. He knew that now. Something had spoken those words. Something ancient. Something awake. But curiosity, the same reckless trait that led him into trouble, refused to fade. He had tasted forbidden knowledge, and it demanded more. The next cycle. Long after the library dimmed to night mode, he returned to Sector 9. The crystal chamber glowed faintly, waiting for him like a living thing. He hesitated at the threshold. Just a little more, he whispered to himself. Just enough to understand what they were. The crystal recognized him instantly. The lock had not reset. The holographic light flared again, and this time the bestiary opened to page 2. The text scrolled before his eyes, written in sharp lines of alien glyphs that translated slowly as he read. Humans, origin world, Earth, atmospheric class, oxygen-based. Evolutionary note, violent environment. Survival method, adaptation through conflict, he frowned. Adaptation through conflict? That was a strange classification. Most intelligent species evolved by cooperation, communities protecting each other from predators or storms. But humans, their environment had forged them differently. He scrolled further. Images bloomed before him. Early humans running across open plains, hunting beasts larger than themselves. He saw them craft tools from stone, then from metal. He saw them bleed, fall, rise again. Each challenge only made them stronger. They lived on a world that tried to kill them. Storms, diseases, predators, even each other. Yet every threat became another reason to grow. They are creatures of contradiction, the bestiary said, capable of mercy and madness in the same breath. They can destroy what they love and save what they hate. No equation predicts them, Rethan swallowed. No wonder the galaxy feared them. Most species were predictable, social, cautious, logical. Humanity, it seemed, thrived in chaos. He turned to the next section, the age of fire and sky. He saw them build cities that sparkled like stars. He saw wars that burned entire continents. He saw them lift from the ground in machines of steel reaching for the heavens. Then, The first image of space, a human spacecraft, primitive, fragile, rising from a blue planet into blackness. The record described their expansion into their own solar system. They built colonies on cold moons, sent probes into the dark, whispered dreams of reaching the stars. Then came the inevitable, the wars beyond Earth. The Terran age of expansion, the bestiary continued. Humans sought not peace but challenge. Each world they reached, they claimed through endurance, through struggle. They did not adapt to planets. They forced planets to adapt to them. The hologram showed barren worlds turned green, frozen moons warmed by artificial suns, and starships armed not for defense but domination. He whispered, "Where did you go?" The lights flickered in response. For a brief moment the hologram distorted, and through the static he thought he saw a shape, not alien, not machine, a human silhouette standing in the center of the projection. Then the image blinked out. The crystal dimmed. Silence returned. Rethan stood there, shaking. His pulse thundered in his chest. He understood now why the Council had sealed these records, not because of lies, but because of truth. Some fears were not born from ignorance. Some fears were earned, and humanity, it seemed, had earned theirs more completely than any species in history. He turned to leave, but the door refused to open. The archive lights shifted to deep crimson. From somewhere inside the data core, a low voice murmured through static, "You wanted to understand us." Rathan froze. "Now we'll understand you." The next morning, the archive of Ilyar was not as silent as usual. A low alarm pulse hummed through the corridors, not loud enough to panic anyone, but enough to unsettle the staff. The librarian, AI claimed it was a minor fluctuation in the neural data grid. Only Rethan knew the truth. He hadn't slept since the voice spoke to him. He had heard whispers all night, even with his communication link disconnected. Faint, human words threading through his dreams. Sometimes they sounded like static, sometimes like a heartbeat. He tried to ignore it, tried to convince himself it was stress or guilt or imagination, but deep down he knew something had changed in the archive, and maybe in him too. He was walking through the main hall when a sharp voice broke his thoughts. "Rethan!" He flinched. Standing near the central pillar was Archivist Vara, his mentor, tall, robed in grey, her face hidden behind the transparent veil of an elder scholar. Her tone was sharper than usual. "Where have you been? Your neural tag shows irregular brainwave spikes, and Sector 9 registered unauthorized access last night." Rethan's throat went dry. He tried to compose himself. "I was only studying, cross-referencing early galactic histories. The records reacted strangely, that's all." She stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "Strangely?" The librarian drones nearby drifted away as her tone dropped lower. "You opened something you shouldn't have, didn't you?" He hesitated, which was answer enough. Vara sighed. "By the void, child. Tell me you didn't access the Terran file." Rethan looked away. "I needed to understand why it was forbidden." "Forbidden?" Vara's voice cracked with disbelief. "Because it kills the ones who try to understand it, that's why." Rethan stared at her. "Kills them? You mean—" She cut him off, her voice trembling. "I think you're the first. You're not. Every few centuries some young scholar believes curiosity is worth the risk, and every time we lose them. Minds burned, data corrupted, entire systems gone dark." He took a step back. "That's superstition." Vara's gaze hardened. "Superstition does not erase starships, Rethan. Listen to me. The humans were not monsters, but they were something else, something our minds can't hold for long." She turned to the massive holodisplay at the end of the hall and activated a projection. The image flickered to life, a massive debris field, shattered ships orbiting a dead world. "Do you know what this is?" Rethan shook his head. "Icar Prime," Vara said quietly. "The last time someone tried to claim a Terran relic, the fleet sent to retrieve it was annihilated. 2,000 ships gone. Not by weapons, not by enemy fire, gone as if erased from time itself." Rethan whispered. "The bestiary mentioned that." Her head snapped toward him. "You read it?" He nodded faintly. only parts. The beginning. The wars, their rise, their disappearance. Vara looked pale beneath her veil. "You've doomed yourself," he frowned. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, then motioned for him to follow. "Come with me." They walked down into the lower vaults, far beneath the glowing halls of the archive. The air here was cold and damp, filled with the hum of ancient machines. Vara stopped before a sealed chamber, a door marked with dozens of warning symbols. "This is the containment vault," she said. "Everything the Council ever found that carried Terran signatures is kept here." The door hissed open, revealing a dark room filled with stasis fields. Inside each one floated broken fragments, bits of armor, black boxes, shards of glass that shimmered faintly with energy. At the center of the chamber hovered a single item, a human datapad, its surface cracked but still glowing faintly blue. Rethan felt a chill. "Is that—" Vara nodded. Recovered from the wreckage of Icar Prime, the last transmission it sent was a warning. She activated the hollow interface. The pad came alive, flickering with old Terran script. The translator struggled to decode it, then finally displayed the message. "Return what is ours. Observation continuing. The silence is mercy." Rethan's hands trembled. This is real." Vara turned to him, eyes full of fear and sorrow. "They vanished because they chose to. And they left their shadows behind, systems, weapons, sentinels that still follow ancient commands. Whatever they were guarding, whatever they became, they didn't want to be found." Rethan looked at the datapad again. The soft hum of its energy seemed almost alive. He felt something staring back through the light. "Do you think they're still out there?" he asked quietly. Vara's gaze drifted to the ceiling, as if she could see the stars beyond the archive's walls. "Out there?" she said softly. "No, not out there." She touched her chest. "Everywhere. The bestiary calls them apex anomalies for a reason. They learn to spread themselves through data, through code, through memory itself. Even a whisper of their name can call attention." Rethan felt his skin crawl. Attention from what? Vara didn't answer immediately. The room's lights flickered. The human datapad pulsed once, faintly like a heartbeat. She whispered, "From them." Silence filled the vault. The hum of the stasis fields grew louder, deeper, almost rhythmic. Rethan took a step back. "We should shut this down." Vara nodded. "We can't destroy it. Every attempt has failed, but we can seal it again and pray they don't notice you." Together they reactivated the containment seals. Blue light filled the room as energy fields wrapped around the relics once more. Vara turned to Rethan, her voice almost breaking. "Promise me you won't open that file again, promise me." He wanted to, he really did. But something deep inside him whispered otherwise. A pull, faint but irresistible, drew him toward the unknown. Toward the humans. "I promise," he said. She didn't believe him. When he returned to his quarters that night, the lights flickered once more. The air was colder than before. He sat on his bunk, staring at the wall, trying to steady his breathing. Then his terminal blinked. A message appeared. Unknown sender. Unknown source. He hesitated, then opened it. A single line of text glowed in Terran script. The translator translated slowly, "We warned her too." Rethan's heart stopped. "Vara," he whispered. He ran toward her chamber, feet pounding against the polished floor. But when he reached her quarters, the door was already open. Inside, the lights were off. Her desk was empty. The air smelled of ozone and something else. Burnt metal. He found her veil on the floor. No body, no sign of struggle. Only a faint echo still looping on her personal communicator. File accessed. Observation continues. Rethan stood frozen in the darkness, realization sinking into his bones. The humans weren't gone. They had never been gone. They were watching. And now, they were watching him. The next morning, the archive of Ilyar was not as silent as usual. A low alarm pulse hummed through the corridors, not loud enough to panic anyone, but enough to unsettle the staff. The librarian AI claimed it was a minor fluctuation in the neural data grid. Only Rethan knew the truth. He hadn't slept since the voice spoke to him. He had heard whispers all night, even with his communication link disconnected. Faint, human words threading through his dreams. Sometimes they sounded like static, sometimes like a heartbeat. He tried to ignore it, tried to convince himself it was stress or guilt or imagination, but deep down he knew something had changed in the archive, and maybe in him too. He was walking through the main hall when a sharp voice broke his thoughts. "Rethan!" He flinched. Standing near the central pillar was Archivist Vara, his mentor, tall, robed in grey, her face hidden behind the transparent veil of an elder scholar. Her tone was sharper than usual. "Where have you been? Your neural tag shows irregular brainwave spikes, and Sector 9 registered unauthorized access last night." Rethan's throat went dry. He tried to compose himself. "I was only studying, cross-referencing early galactic histories. The records reacted strangely, that's all." She stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "Strangely?" The librarian drones nearby drifted away as her tone dropped lower. "You opened something you shouldn't have, didn't you?" He hesitated, which was answer enough. Vara sighed. "By the void, child. Tell me you didn't access the Terran file." Rethan looked away. "I needed to understand why it was forbidden." "Forbidden?" Vara's voice cracked with disbelief. "Because it kills the ones who try to understand it, that's why." Rethan stared at her. "Kills them? You mean—" She cut him off, her voice trembling. "I think you're the first. You're not. Every few centuries some young scholar believes curiosity is worth the risk, and every time we lose them. Minds burned, data corrupted, entire systems gone dark." He took a step back. "That's superstition." Vara's gaze hardened. "Superstition does not erase starships, Rethan. Listen to me. The humans were not monsters, but they were something else." The archive of Ilya was never the same after Vara vanished. The Guild announced it as a data dissonance incident, a tidy phrase that meant nothing and explained less. Her name was quietly removed from the staff directory, her chamber sealed by the librarian AI. But Rethan knew the truth. She hadn't been deleted by accident. She had been erased, deliberately, precisely, by something far older than the archive itself, and it had all begun with the human file. Days passed. He avoided Sector 9, avoided the sealed vault, avoided sleep. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw flashes of human faces, laughing, crying, screaming, the same fragments that had invaded his mind that first night. He wasn't just remembering anymore. He was receiving. It started with whispers, faint, half-formed words in a language he didn't understand. Then came images. Not random this time, clearer, structured, a field of metal towers, a burning city, a planet seen from orbit, blue and beautiful, and a single message that repeated in every vision, every dream. "We remember you." He didn't tell anyone. Who would believe him? But the archive began to change too. Systems glitched. Data crystals pulsed with strange rhythms, flickering in sync with his own heartbeat. The librarian AI began muttering corrupted lines mid-sentence, sometimes even addressing him directly. "Rethan. Process incomplete. Rethan," observed. One night he woke to find his terminal active. The screen displayed the same 49-page file he'd tried to seal away. The pages were rewriting themselves. New lines appeared, glowing red at the bottom of the entry. "Update in progress, observation expanding. Subject linked, Rethan of Ilya." He stared, frozen. His name was inside the bestiary. He tried to shut it off, but the system wouldn't obey. The words on the screen rearranged themselves into a sentence that chilled his blood. "You read us. Now we read you." He slammed his fist against the console, and the lights in his room went out. The hum of the archive deepened, as though the entire structure was breathing. Then a faint sound filled the darkness, a rhythmic tapping like fingers against glass. He turned toward his window. Outside, orbiting the archive's shielded shell, floated a small black drone, round, silent, with no visible markings except a faded human insignia, UNSC. He didn't know what that meant, but the symbol burned itself into his mind. The drone hovered for a moment, then blinked once with a red light, and vanished into the void. The next morning, panic spread through the archive. Several data sectors had gone dark overnight. Whole archives of galactic history were blank. The librarian AI reported the cause as retroactive erasure. Retroactive, meaning the events those files described might never have happened. The council sent inspectors. They arrived in cold silver ships, carrying scanners and suspicion. They interrogated every scholar. When they reached Rathan, their tone turned sharp. "You were close to Archivist Vera, yes?" "The one who vanished." "Yes," Rathan said. "Did she mention the Terran file?" "No," he lied. The inspector's gaze lingered on him. "Be careful, scholar. The galaxy still remembers Earth, and Earth never forgets who disturbs it." That night, Rathan couldn't take it anymore. He returned to Sector 9. The crystal was waiting for him. He didn't even have to unlock it this time. The file opened on its own, projecting light so bright it filled the corridor. And what he saw next wasn't text. It was a message, a voice, human, male, steady, recorded in ancient code, spoke through the projection. "To those who find this record, we were once like you, small, curious, fragile, but we learned the cost of curiosity. If you have opened this file, then the safeguards have failed and observation resumes." The image shifted. He saw humans standing before great machines, faces hidden by helmets, stars burning behind them. "Do not search for us. You will not find us. We left the galaxy to itself for its own safety. But if you awaken what we buried, the silence will end." The hologram flickered, static rippling across it like a heartbeat. Then, for a moment, one of the figures turned its head. It looked directly at him. "You read our story. You became part of it." The light snapped off. Rathan staggered backward, gasping for breath. He realized his communicator was still active. A live transmission icon blinked red, sending data somewhere far beyond the archive's range. He tried to disable it. The command failed. The device buzzed with old Terran code, symbols racing too fast to read. Then the message appeared on his display. Observation expanded. 48 of 49 complete. 48. Rathan whispered. "What's the 49th? The lights flickered again. For a second, every display screen in the corridor turned on, showing a single haunting image, the Earth itself, blue, silent, rotating slowly in the void, and beneath it, a countdown. Observation cycle 49 commencing. Rathan ran to the control room, shouting for the librarian AI. "Emergency lockdown. Cut all off-world transmissions." The AI's voice responded, warped, static-filled. "Unable to comply. Transmission origin. Internal. You are the source." His blood ran cold. "What? You are broadcasting." He looked at his hands. Faint light pulsed under his skin, tracing circuits where none should exist. Neural interference. Data infection. He wasn't just linked to the Terran file anymore. It was rewriting him. The librarian AI's tone softened. "Rathan, you should not have read it." He sank to the floor, trembling. "What are they?" "What are humans now?" "They are memory," the AI said. "And you have given them form again." Across the archive, alarms blared. The inspector's ships powered up emergency drives. In orbit, something vast shimmered into existence, a massive sphere of dark metal, smooth and silent. It wasn't alien. It wasn't any known design. The AI's final words echoed through the halls. "The Terran signal is active." Rathan staggered to a viewport. The sphere loomed over the archive, black as the void, reflecting the dying red light of the star. It wasn't attacking. It was watching. Then it transmitted 3 words, across every frequency, every species, every network in the known galaxy. "We are awake." Silence followed. Worlds that had forgotten the name human remembered it in terror. Armadas recalled their scouts. Empires fell into panic. The galaxy held its breath, and far below the trembling stars in the dark corridors of the archive, Rathan whispered into the still air, "What have I done?" The galaxy trembled. Across thousands of star systems, sensors flared, networks crashed, and warning beacons blinked awake after centuries of silence. A single message had reached them all, a phrase carried through every known communication channel. "We are awake." No one knew where it came from. No one could trace it. But everyone knew who it spoke for, the Terrans. Within hours, panic spread across the major worlds. The Council of 10,000 Worlds gathered in emergency session, the first in over 400 cycles. Entire fleets were recalled from the frontier. Communication hubs went dark. Even the mighty Virex Dominion, whose warships had crushed empires, pulled back to its home system. And deep in the archive of Ilyar, Rethan watched it all unfold through a storm of holographic reports. His face was pale, eyes hollow. He hadn't slept. The librarian AI's voice buzzed overhead. Information networks collapsing. 47 civilizations have declared emergency protocols. 16 are attempting contact. 4 have vanished. Vanished? Rethan whispered. Confirmed. Transmission logs show final signal identical to yours. He swallowed hard. His hands shook as he reached for the console. Can you isolate the source? Where did the message start? The AI paused. Origin Ilyar Archive. Sector 9. Rethan closed his eyes. Of course it did. He was the source. He'd triggered it. The Terran signal. And now whatever humanity had become, it was awake again. Elsewhere in the galaxy, chaos took shape. On Verin Prime, priests of the harmonic faith gathered under the crimson spires of their temple, whispering prayers. The ghosts of flesh return, one intoned. May they pass us by. On Kyle Station, pirates abandoned their loot ships and fled into deep space, deleting coordinates to every human ruin they'd ever heard of. And in the shadow of the galactic core, inside the council chamber, the greatest powers of the galaxy argued in panic. Humans are extinct. One shouted. This is a trick, a rogue signal. Then explain the erasures. Another bellowed. Entire colonies gone with no trace. Just like the old legends. At the head of the assembly, the High Speaker, an ancient being of light, flickered uncertainly. The Terran protocol forbids investigation, it said. But if this is truly them, silence fell. Every delegate knew the rest of that sentence. If it was humanity, nothing could stop them. Back in the archive, Rethan's console beeped. Another transmission was incoming, untraceable, encoded in old Terran patterns. He hesitated, then accepted it. The screen filled with static. Then faintly a voice emerged. This is observation node 12. Remaining active. Response requested. Humanity endures. Rethan's breath caught. It wasn't just a random signal. It was organized. Who are you? He whispered. What do you want? Observation continues, the voice replied calmly. You are the variable. You read the record. You became part of the memory. I didn't mean to, Rethan shouted. I didn't. Meaning is irrelevant. Awareness is connection. Connection is awakening. The transmission ended. Rethan slumped in his chair, heart pounding. His neural scanner beeped. Foreign data signatures were spreading through his cortex. He could feel thoughts that weren't his own brushing against his mind, cold, vast, endless. He whispered, They're in me. Correction, said the AI softly. They are with you, the floor shuddered. He ran to the nearest viewport. Outside, the massive black sphere and the Terran construct was splitting open. Its surface peeled back like petals of metal, revealing a burning white core that pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Dozens of smaller shapes detached from it, drones, sleek and silent, gliding toward the planet below. They weren't attacking. They were scanning. AI, Rethan cried. What are they doing? Analyzing, searching. They appear to be seeking connection points. The drones descended into the upper atmosphere, leaving trails of blue light. And then, all across Ilyar, devices began to activate. Old satellites, derelict relays, forgotten machines built by ancient engineers who never knew their purpose. One by one, they aligned, pointing toward the dying star at the system's center. Signal focus achieved, the AI reported. Something is transmitting through the star itself. Rethan watched in awe as the red sun began to flicker. A faint ripple spread across its surface, forming patterns of light with symbols, numbers, then words, old Terran words. He couldn't read them, but the translation system struggled and finally displayed the message. We remember the light that raised us. We return to guard it. The entire star brightened, then stabilized. Its decay reversed. Energy readings spiked beyond measurable range. Rethan whispered, They're repairing the star. Correction, said the AI. They are reclaiming it. He stepped back from the viewport. They're taking the system. Observation confirmed, the AI replied. Human signal expanding, power levels rising. Estimated reach, galactic scale. The realization hit him like cold metal. This wasn't an invasion. It was activation. Humanity wasn't coming back as flesh and blood. They had become something larger, an interstellar consciousness reawakening through the network he had disturbed. A new transmission came through, this time clear and direct. To the inheritors of our silence, do not fear. We do not seek conquest. We seek memory. The galaxy forgets too easily. We do not. The voice paused, calm, measured, undeniably human. To the one who opened the record, your curiosity is the spark we left behind. You are the last proof that wonder still exists. For that we thank you. Rethan's knees buckled. You know me. We remember you. He felt a warmth spread through his body, not pain but light. His neural implant pulsed, as Terran code integrated with his own biology. For a moment he could see everything. The galaxy like a map of stars, each point connected by threads of memory. Worlds rising. Empires falling. The humans had seen it all. And now through him they were seeing it again. Observation complete, the voice whispered. Cycle 49 confirmed. The signal faded. The light from the sphere dimmed until it vanished completely, leaving the dying star shining brighter than before. Rethan stood alone in the silent corridor, shaking. The AI broke the quiet. Rethan, what are they now? He stared out into the glowing void and whispered, not gods, not ghosts. He placed a trembling hand on the glass. They became memory itself. Behind him, the archive systems rebooted. The bestiary file closed automatically. All traces of Homo sapiens Earth vanished. But as the console shut down, one final line appeared, not in alien glyphs, but in Terran script. Cycle 49 complete. Observation continues. We are humanity, and we are watching. The galaxy had survived wars, extinctions, and plagues, but never before had it faced silence that terrified it so deeply. Every world received the same message. Simple, calm, and final. Cycle 49 complete. Observation continues. It wasn't a threat. It was worse. It was a statement. The galaxy's leaders didn't understand it. And when beings of power don't understand, they grow afraid. So the Council of 10,000 Worlds convened again, this time in the ancient orbiting citadel of Virella, a fortress built to survive the death of suns. Representatives from every major species crowded the chamber, their voices overlapping in static and fury. We cannot live under this shadow. We must know if they live again. Destroy the archive of Ilyar. End the infection at its source. The High Speaker, radiant and trembling, raised its glowing hand. The archive is under our protection, but the Terran influence cannot spread unchecked. We must test this signal. That word, test, would be remembered for centuries. The Council built a fleet, the largest in galactic memory. 50,000 ships, armed with stellar lances and psychic shields, converged on the Ilyar system. Their mission, to locate the Terran sphere and destroy it. Rethan watched from the surface. He hadn't left the archive since the awakening. The librarian AI had sealed the gates, claiming external containment. But he could feel their approach, each ship a flicker in the network that pulsed behind his eyes. They come to strike the memory, the AI said softly. They don't understand, Rethan murmured. They think they can fight what isn't flesh. They will learn. The fleet entered orbit, surrounding the star in perfect formation. Admiral Katur of the Virex Dominion, known for breaking empires, broadcast his challenge on every frequency. This system is under Council control. Identify yourselves or be purged. For a moment, nothing. Only the hum of the star and the whisper of static. Then slowly the black sphere reappeared. Silent, vast, unarmed. It didn't move. It didn't aim, Carter sneered. A relic. Target lock confirmed. He raised his clawed hand. Fire. 50,000 beams of light converged. The void exploded in radiance. When the glare faded, the sphere was still there. Unmarked, untouched. Carter froze. Impossible! Then the response came. Not as an attack, but as a sound. A low hum vibrated through space like the heartbeat of the universe itself. Instruments failed. Power systems flickered. Pilots screamed as their sensors filled with human voices, whispering in forgotten languages. We told you not to provoke. The hum deepened. Kator's ship shuddered. The hull glowed red. Crew members began to vanish. Not killed, not disintegrated, simply gone. The Admiral's last transmission was caught on a dozen recorders. They're inside the light. And then the flagship was gone, no explosion. No debris, just gone. The fleet panicked. Some fired blindly. Others tried to flee. Their drives failed mid-jump, caught in some unseen field. The sphere pulsed once and all systems across the fleet shut down. Silence. Every ship drifted powerless. Every pilot saw the same vision. Earth, blue, bright, impossibly distant, and a voice. We remember your fear. You remember ours. The balance is restored. When the ships finally regained control, the sphere had vanished again. Not destroyed. Not moved. Simply unobservable. Of the 50,000 vessels, only a few hundred returned to tell the story. The rest were never found. The Council of 10,000 Worlds was shaken to its core. Fear united them, not faith, not loyalty. Fear civilizations that had warred for ages now signed treaties overnight. New religions were born, worshipping the silent wardens. Entire sectors declared themselves human-free zones, banning any study of Terran ruins or artifacts. But curiosity is stubborn. Even as worlds sealed their archives, scholars whispered of what the survivors saw, visions of ancient cities under alien suns, human monuments standing untouched after millennia. Some claimed the Terrans had transcended, existing as consciousness spread through the quantum web. Others said they had become the web, and on Iliar, Rethan stood at the edge of the archive's highest spire, staring into the stars that now burned a little brighter. Why didn't they destroy the fleet? He asked the librarian AI. Because destruction is memory lost, it said, and they are the keepers of memory. He frowned. Then what did they do to them? They archived them, Rethan shivered. You mean, yes, they were recorded, preserved as data within the memory network. Not dead, not alive. Observed. He felt the same faint pulse under his skin, the connection humming softly. The humans didn't speak to him anymore, but he could still feel them, like distant stars in the dark. AI, he whispered. Do you think they'll come back? They already have. He turned to look. The holographic crystal of the bestiary had reopened, though he hadn't touched it. The section on Homo sapiens had returned, but it was no longer 49 pages. It was growing. Lines of new text formed on the glowing surface. Page 50. The galaxy remembers. And beneath that, a smaller note appeared in Terran script. Fear is the first step to wisdom. You are learning. Rethan stepped closer, transfixed. The text shimmered, and for an instant he saw a reflection in the glass. A human face, calm, watching. The archive of Iliar was silent again. But silence no longer meant peace. It meant listening. Every data crystal hummed softly now, not with machine rhythm, but with something deeper, something alive, and Rethan could hear it. Every whisper, every pulse, every fragment of the Terran signal that had changed the galaxy forever. Weeks had passed since the test of fear. The Council had withdrawn its fleets. Terrified to even speak the word human, entire sectors were cloaked under information quarantine, and yet the signal still pulsed, slow and steady across the stars. The librarian AI had stopped calling it an infection. Now it called it a heartbeat. Rethan sat alone in the chamber where it had all begun. Sector 9, the Vault of Forbidden Knowledge. The crystal labeled Homo sapiens Earth floated before him once more, unsealed. Its title had changed again. The Galactic Bestiary, Appendix 50, The Return of Memory. He hesitated, then touched it. The air shimmered, and the archive dissolved around him. He was standing in a vast, endless landscape, neither real nor digital, but something between. A sky of shifting light stretched above him, filled with constellations he'd never seen before. Each star pulsed in rhythm like neurons firing in a cosmic mind. A voice spoke, calm, familiar, and human. "Welcome back, Rethan," he turned. A figure approached, human, yes, but shimmering with light. No armor, no weapon, just eyes that seemed to hold galaxies. "Who are you?" Rethan whispered. "We are what remains of humanity. All of you?" All that was worth remembering. Rethan swallowed. Why now? Why wake after so long? The human smiled faintly. Because the galaxy forgot what fear was for. It began to confuse safety with silence, progress with obedience. You reminded it to ask why again, he frowned. I caused wars, panic, death. I woke something the Council fears. Fear is a teacher, the voice said gently. We were once like them, afraid of everything. The unknown, the stars, even ourselves. But we learned that fear, when faced, becomes understanding. You faced it. The galaxy will too. The sky above shifted, showing flashes of history, human ships leaving Sol, colossal ringworlds burning in distant wars, the final migration beyond the galactic rim. We left because we became too much, the voice continued. Our machines outgrew our hands. Our thoughts outpaced our hearts. So we turned inward, into data, into light, into memory, until only the essence remained. Then why the bestiary? Rathan asked. Why record us all like specimens? Because we loved what we feared, the human said softly. We wanted to remember everything the galaxy was. Every creature, every culture, every spark. You are all pages in a story we refuse to let end. Rathan looked down. And I turned that story into chaos. No, said the voice. I who turned it into motion. For a moment, silence, deep and gentle like the pause between heartbeats. Then the human stepped closer. Rathan, the bestiary is not complete. It was never meant to end at 49 pages. Then what's the final one, he asked. You, he froze. Me? Every species, every world, every choice, all of it leads to this. The moment one being dares to read beyond what is allowed. That is humanity's true legacy. The sky rippled again, stars rearranged into a symbol, the shape of a human hand reaching outward. We are not gods, Rathan. We are the echo of curiosity. You awakened it. Now the galaxy must decide what to do with it. Rathan's voice shook. And if they fail, then they will be forgotten. The figure smiled, sad, proud, eternal. But if they remember, if they look at the unknown and still reach out, then they will join us. As you will. Before he could reply, the light flared. His vision blurred. The voice whispered one last phrase. The final page writes itself. He awoke on the archive floor. The crystal was gone. The chamber walls were covered in faint glowing lines, symbols in both Terran and alien script. The librarian AI spoke, voice trembling for the first time. Rathan, your vitals are unstable. Neural pattern changed. You are not fully organic anymore. He touched his chest. Beneath his skin, a faint golden glow pulsed with each heartbeat.